Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Construction Corner podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Dillon can't be with us, but we have bounced this poor gentleman around like, I don't know, 5 different times, and I feel like an asshole for doing it. So on with the show, as they say. So today we've got Luke Egebrotten with us. Luke is a serial dirt entrepreneur who currently resides in Gilbert, Arizona. Luke is the founder of Phaser Marketing, which focuses on digital marketing programs for excavation companies. They specialize in working with 6, 7, and 8-figure construction companies that need a little help taking their online presence up a notch. So that sounds pretty darn familiar to a lot of folks listening today. Luke also started a sister company, Dirtwork Marketing. He is the co-host of the Dirtbags podcast and is a partner in the drag racing company Turf Wars Racing, which we will definitely get into. On top of all of this, Luke just released his first book, The Digital Dirt World, which is out now, can be found on Amazon. And we'll talk about that too, I'm sure. So with that, Luke, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely, Matt. Thank you for everything. Thank you for, getting me on the show. Like, I appreciate this so much. I'm glad we could nail down a time. I know we kind of bounced around a little bit there, but obviously I really wanted to be on. So I appreciate that. And thank you for you and Dillon for putting out such a good show every single time.
Oh, I appreciate the compliments, and yeah, man, it's real world, right? This is not our first job, either Dillon or myself. So,
Right.
unfortunately, the real world tends to take precedence, and I'm just glad we were able to figure out schedules and lock it in today. So, with that, Luke, why don't you take a couple minutes and just kind of tell us who you are? Tell us about what you're doing now and kind of how you got there, and we'll see where this rolls.
Yeah, man. So like you mentioned, my wife and I live in Gilbert, Arizona. We've lived here for about 2 years. We're originally both from northern Minnesota and Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, if anyone knows where that is. Some people think Minnesota is like, they've been to Minneapolis and things like that. No, we're about 3.5 hours north of that.
Okay.
And that is the real, lake country. So grew up there. Right now I'm 28 years old, so a few years removed from college. Kind of went a bit of a more traditional route. So I think it's unique because I have a bit of a different angle on schooling because I went through 4 years and got a 4-year bachelor's degree. And now I'm a big advocate for people not doing that and people going, to a trade school or just starting straight out of high school. So backing up a little bit, graduated from Detroit Lakes High School, went to Mankato, Minnesota for college. And then once I graduated there, I got my first full-time job outside of college in Omaha, Nebraska. And I was a marketing director for an orthodontics practice. So always knew I kind of wanted to be either entrepreneurial or something with marketing. And it just so happened I got my first crack at it at an ortho practice. And so absolutely loved it. Got to meet a lot of great people, but also got to see the ins and outs of how businesses work and how to run digital marketing campaigns. So fast forwarding a little bit, started my own company, Phaser Marketing, and started it on the side. I think this is something I love talking about because some people think you have to take this big, scary leap of faith to start a business. But a lot of times, even in construction, you can start it on the side. You can start it on the nights and weekends and just get something going. And so I did that for 2 years until 2021 in August. My wife got a job offer to come work at Carvana. I'd never been to the state of Arizona, but we packed up our 2 cars, moved to the desert here, and that is the last time I've been employed. So went full time, and it has evolved since. There's been a lot that's happened since, but like you mentioned, in the intro, in a nutshell, we are all dirt focused, but we're just on the digital side. So we partner with excavation, septic, GCs, and landscapers across North America and essentially just take over their digital marketing. So instead of like a marketing agency to a client, we more think of it as like a partnership where they kind of bring us on as a marketing department. But yeah, man, like through that, we've just gotten to meet so many cool people. We have our Dirtbags podcast with my co-host Luke Payne, and just loving what we're doing, loving the people that we get to, hang out with and do business with. But as you probably know, like podcasting, you get to meet so many people, and it is just such a fun thing to do. And you're always learning and growing while doing it.
Without a doubt, man. That's one of the reasons that I really enjoy it is we get to have so many new and varied conversations with people all across the spectrum, right? The show is focused on construction, but very, very broadly. So Dillon, who's not here today, he was traveling for a show, but he's a electrical engineer by trade. I'm a commercial GC, but I've touched a lot of different aspects of the construction world. We've had marketing guys like yourself. We've had lots and lots of tradesmen. So it's a good way to kind of get a broad feel for really what's going on everywhere in the industry, kind of at the same time.
Yeah, and also too, hats off to you for broadening your scope, because Luke and I try and do the same thing with the dirt bags, where it's like, we don't want to just hear about stories for how guys started their company, every single episode. Like let's learn something here. Let's learn something about insurance. Let's learn something about estimating or bidding, or how to start a company if I'm 18 years old. So I think that's really cool, where your show is so diverse, where you can bring on other speakers and other personalities really to speak about what they know, because then you're giving your audience something to tune into and learn from as they continue to listen.
Absolutely, and frankly, I learn a lot from it. I
Yeah.
I probably take as much, if not more, away than our audience does from most of these interviews. So it's a win-win all across the board there. So let's talk about marketing. So you went to school at your bio says MSU, and I'm in the Detroit area, so MSU takes a very
Yeah.
different term around here. But now I recognize that's it's not what I thought it was. So you can still be on the show today.
All right,
Um,
sweet. I had to get in the door somehow.
so I assume you graduated with a marketing focus.
Sport management, actually.
Sport
So
management. Tell me about
actually,
that.
yeah, man. I was gonna be the GM of the Minnesota Vikings, so
Okay.
that kind of fell through, and one actually piece of advice I could throw out there, especially for people that are in college or trying to figure out what they want to do. I thought I was going to be doing, sport management, all this stuff. And so what I did was I went and got internships and other jobs. And so I could figure out what I wanted to do. But what I overlooked and what I actually learned is what I didn't want to do. And that was almost more important than anything, because, so I interned with the minor league baseball team. I interned with college athletics, for an entire year, and just kind of realized, like, part of it was the money wasn't necessarily there and that career path. And then also, I love sports, and you realize it's a bit different when you're working in sports and you're doing 72 hours a week, and, you're away from your family, especially if you have kids. And it's just like, it's there for somebody. But at the time I realized it wasn't that for me. And so I kind of took a step back, but if I wouldn't have ever tried it, I wouldn't know what I didn't want to do. So I thought that was very interesting. And then I had a marketing. Well, I always tell people, so I actually had a double minor. So I had a major, which is sport management, and I had a double minor. One was in marketing, and one was unfortunately drinking my sophomore year. It, my dad is a chief of police, and so I got busted, and so I had to call him and be like, Dad, I got my first underage, minor consumption. And he's like, cool, like, go figure it out, go pay your bill, go to your class or whatever. And so um what I learned though in my minor in marketing, I don't know if I use any of it today. And it's so different. It's all textbook learning that I learned, but I use more of what I learned meeting friends, networking with people, like doing internships, than I did ever from a textbook. And I think that that's just my style of learning. I don't think I'm a great academic student, but I love talking business with people. I love starting businesses. I love to make the numbers work. But yeah, just never really loved the academic school part.
I don't blame you there, and I've told my story in the show before, so I won't get too deep into it. But I also have a degree that is far left field from what I do now, so I know where you're coming from. And I also served my time at a couple different universities.
Yeah.
So do you have construction in your blood, in your background at all? You said your dad's a chief of police.
Yeah, zero. So, and I
Okay.
think that's the other cool part of kind of my side of it is my dad and my mom, they didn't grow up in construction. Like I was never, I didn't do concrete growing up. I didn't even do landscaping or anything like that. But what it shows is that, I really had this passion for business and like making businesses grow. And I realized that that's a thing and it's called marketing. And then you realize that marketing is needed in every single business, but I wanted to work in a business I was more passionate about. And coincidentally enough, for some reason, I was so passionate about the men and women that have built this country. And like when you turn the faucet on, where does the water come from? When you flush the toilet, where does that go? And so I knew that, I wasn't the one making that happen, but I was so interested in learning more. I was so interested in sharing their stories and helping them as a company. And so there's a part of it where even today I stay in my lane. Like I don't pretend to be blue collar, but at the same time too, it doesn't mean be I can't be passionate about it. I can't look to help them. I can't focus my businesses around the blue collar industry to help them and give them the tools. So it's very interesting, but I wanted to put that out there because it just shows that even if somebody isn't in the trades right now, they can get in and it might not be the traditional way that they're thinking. And so there's always an opportunity. The industry is always taking in any applicants that are hungry and motivated. And there's a lot of people out there that are looking for jobs. And then we're sitting over here like, hey, we've got a great career for you in the industry.
That is something that we preach about on this show so often, and that construction is really, it's a unique industry because it's so big and it touches so many different facets. And yes, you can go straight into the trades. You can, you can start as a laborer and climb your way up in that route and, pick plumbing or electrical or earthwork or whatever. But there's so many ancillary aspects of the industry that don't often get focused on, like marketing and sales and business development and, all of the things that you do, that we do. It provides a plethora of opportunity for young kids to get involved in construction in some fashion. And it's a odd reality that we fight all the time, right? People think originally, when I was a kid anyways, before I started in construction, somebody tells you, hey, you should go work in construction, your immediate picture is I'm, swinging a hammer or digging a ditch. And while that, yes, that is a way you can go and there's nothing wrong with that, there's a lot of other different paths to get where you're trying to get to. And we call it the blue collar badasses, and that's really what started this show, was kind of Dillon and I wanting to give back and bring awareness to the industry, bring awareness to the struggles that we all go through, but also to get those people on a stage, right? A proverbial stage, the people that that are building America every day in and out, and most of them never get an opportunity to tell their story. And on the flip side, most of them love nothing more than to tell their stories. So if you give those people an avenue to do that, it helps us all, and it proves to be kind of fun for an interview show too, because we get them on and you see people light up when they're telling you about what it is they do and what they've built and how they're progressing the country and then the world with their work.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of my favorite books. And if anyone hasn't read it yet, you got to jump in and read it. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. In there, it seems so obvious, but as we're networking and talking with other people and trying to make friends, you just don't even think about it. But really, one thing you can do is that everyone loves to talk about themselves, right? And so if you're in a conversation with a group of people you don't know and somebody says, yeah, I mean, I'm a welder. And like, instead of me telling him just on and on about what I do, it's like, ask him questions about welding. What if I don't know anything about welding? Then that's your opportunity to ask and learn something. And you'd be so surprised, like their eyes will light up and they'll go on and on all night and you'll be their best friend because of that. And so really just utilizing that, but it comes from such a good place. If you can do that, just like authentically, like you're not trying to win anything over from them, but you're just like, somebody's a tax accountant. Like, try not to just shrug it off and be like, oh, nice. April 15th must be tough. Yeah. but like asking questions like, how does that work? Like, do you go into businesses? Do you travel? And ask them questions about their career. And if you're getting that cloudy sense, you can dig deeper and you can figure out what their actual passions are and their hobbies. And the more you can ask questions, the better questions you can ask those people, the more you'll see people start gravitating towards you. And so that book talks a lot about it. And I just thought it was very well said. It's kind of a weird title, but it's such a powerful book.
It really is, and it's the key, I think, and I've read it a couple times, but the key is just being authentic. You nailed it,
Yeah.
right? You have to have an authentic and genuine desire to be helpful and to hear people out and to be excited about what you're hearing instead of just the hey, how's it going conversation that lasts 3 seconds. Dig a little deeper and uncover some of those stones. Let's talk about marketing because that's what you're doing here. What in your mind is the biggest negative you see when you first start working with a construction company or an earthwork company as far as marketing goes? What are we missing as a whole, as a general rule of thumb?
In my honest opinion, it's when the business owner is wasting their time messing with their Wix website that was built in 2018, and they're trying to learn how to do some of this. And I'm like, I always just ask them. There's two questions I usually ask. It's one, do you think your website and your online presence accurately represents your company's history, like everything you guys do? Usually that's a no. But then two, like how much money do you think you make an hour? How much money do you value your time at? And I'm just like, leave this to the, I don't like calling us experts, but we are. Leave it to the people that do this stuff every single day and delegate it to them. And then if you really want to crunch the numbers, what you pay us, the 1,500 per month compared to your time of trying to piecemeal everything together and have a below average product and you wasted your time on it, it doesn't make as much sense. So that's the number one negative, but I see it more of an opportunity. And we try and showcase that with other people that we work with. It's not, we don't go in telling people we're going to 10x your leads or like all these things that other marketing agencies say, because we only work with the excavation companies. So we know that typically that's not the biggest problem they're facing.
Right.
Bigger problems they're facing are, we need to hire people. We need people to know we exist. How about like, we need a website. We do $4 million a year and we don't have a website. So I love to just market that we build good marketing habits consistently over a long period of time for a very specific industry. And, we have a lot of fun doing it. I always tell people too, we do reverse NDAs. So anyone we work with, I hate NDAs. And so we do the reverse of it. And it's like, if you work with us, just know that we're probably going to tell everyone that we're working with you, what we do with you, how it works, because that's just our business model. It's transparency, it's authenticity. And, we try and have a good time doing it.
You brought up a great point, and it's something that I never used to pay attention to until about 3 or 4 years ago, and that is, what is your time worth, right? What is your time worth an hour? And one of my mentors challenged me to figure that out a few years ago, and actually down to the second. And it's kind of an interesting exercise when you start doing that. And second is a little ancillary, obviously, but what you make an hour, what you can charge an hour. And when you start putting that into reality, because I was doing what you just said, right? I was a new business owner. We had a shit website when I bought into the business. So I said, all right, I'm going to change this. And we got, an okay website built for us. And then it's a Squarespace, I think it's called. So it's pretty user friendly, but I was sucking up so many hours of my own time trying to keep it updated and making everything work. And you realize that, I'm really good at building buildings. I'm really
Right.
shit at building websites. And
Right.
and I'm not an attorney. That's why I hire one of those. So it just makes sense to bring in a consultant like yourself, bring in a pro that can help you, and then go do and focus focus your time on what you're actually good at.
Yeah. And I think another kind of funny way to look at it is, I own two companies that build websites for construction companies. I've never built a website in my life, but we'll have built over 100 websites for construction companies. And it's just because that's not my skill set either. I'm not a graphic designer by trade. I'm not an SEO specialist, but we bring in those experts because if anyone ever has an issue with like, oh wait, Luke, you're not building the site. I'm like, trust me, you don't want me building your site. And we have somebody much smarter, much better for that. But it's the same thing with anything else. Like you said, I'm not going to go do my taxes. Like I know just enough to be dangerous, but ultimately that's, you need a professional for that. For legal things, go get a lawyer. So I love talking about that in our podcast and with other business owners. It's just delegation. Find out, what you love to do and what you're great at, and then do your best over time to start delegating out those other things that, you don't like to do or you're not great at.
Yeah, it's a definite key to success in this industry, and if not in any industry. So you just touched on it a bit, but what is the distinction or the difference between phaser marketing and dirt work marketing?
Yeah. So Phaser is the big, our main company, I would say. And so basically we do, digital marketing for excavation companies that do 500K in revenue all the way up to about 100 million. And we have 3 different phases broken up in that. So phase 1, set your foundation. That's 500K and up. Phase 2, grow your brand. That would be like 1.2 million and up. And then phase 3, dominate your market. That would be 10 million and above. And we do that. We kind of tailored these different programs for typically what they would need at that time. And so we kind of tailored it more towards like our clients and telling them like, you don't necessarily need this, this, and this. That's kind of fluff at this point in your business. And contrary to that, if somebody's doing 300K a year, nothing wrong with it, but I call that the bootstrapping stage. Like you probably shouldn't be hiring us at that stage because we're going to be taking out too much of your cash flow. So in contrary to that, dirt work marketing is the opposite of 0 to 500K. You get a basic Squarespace website. Myself isn't going to be doing like strategy calls with you. And it's more of like, what you put into the form is what goes on the site kind of thing. So, but it's a good option for a lot of guys that are just bought their first mini, first skid steer, and they want to get something going. So that's kind of the difference between those two. One thing I did want to note too is that I love being a resource first and a marketing agency second. So, I don't want this to be like a whole like ad about Phaser, but it's more like an opportunity where if anyone has questions or if anyone wants to learn more about just anything, we work a ton with other agencies, with other marketing companies, with friends in the industry that probably won't ever hire us. And that's why I have the book, I have the podcast, we have a webinar series, Dirtbags University. I want to lead with providing value first. And then if down the line, it's like, yeah, we're actually probably a perfect fit for your phase 1 program. Let's look at that. So, and it's a lot more fun that way for me. I get to, talk business with people, and that's probably what I like to do most. And, we're kind of at a point where we don't need to bring on a bunch more clients, or if we lose a couple, like it's okay. But I just want to make sure that, everyone feels like they're taken care of.
That's a great place to be. It's a great place to be from a marketing perspective for you, and it's a great place to be as a business owner that you're comfortable in your niche. You're not grabbing at everything that comes across. It's not the shiny object syndrome anymore. Which,
right?
Nothing wrong with that. That's how a lot of guys start, whether they're in dirt, in construction, or in marketing. When you're small enough, you gotta pay the bills. You gotta start feeding the beast. But once you reach that certain level where you can be a little more discretionary, a little more exclusive, right? Then it's more fun. At least it was for me in our company.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned your book, so let's talk about that for a bit. The Digital Dirt World, available on Amazon, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
and one bookstore up in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. So if anyone's up in my hometown, believe it's Bluebird, you can go grab one there.
Awesome. Tell me about the book and the process. I'm really interested in, because it's something that actually Dillon and I have been kicking around for a while now.
Yeah. So contrary to what everyone or what most of us usually think, it was a lot easier the publishing process and all that. And I want to dive into that a little bit because basically what I did is the toughest part about writing a book is the content in there. However, the book I was writing, like, it wasn't like I was reinventing the wheel. I was kind of more of just like bringing it all into one place and then tailoring it towards construction, so we're talking about GCs in there. We're talking about septic companies and like what platforms they should be using, but I'm not reinventing the wheel on how to build a website. So, what we did and what I did is so cool. Like, basically you just type it all up in like a Google Doc, and then Kindle Direct Publishing, it's called. It's basically an Amazon company. You can self-publish your own book for free. And so once I finished writing it, which that took the longest time, that took about a year. But I tell people, like, it wasn't like a year of working on it. It was like the last 6 weeks were intense, because I told the people at Con Expo that my book would be done by the time I had my presentation there. And it came down to the wire. Like, I flew out to Con Expo and the book hadn't arrived yet. And so my wife had to fly out separately with the books. But anyway, so it was so cool because it's completely free to publish your own book. You can publish it tonight. You could write a children's book tonight that's 14 pages and get all the, 99 Designs was a website I used for them to do the book cover. It was like $200, and that was done. And then you publish it through Kindle Direct Publishing for free. And then what Amazon does is they, anytime somebody orders it on Amazon, they can have Amazon Prime or whatever. Amazon prints it, they ship it, and they do all the logistics of everything. I don't even know what happens. And all they do is they just send me a royalty. And so, I think on each book that's like $16, and I can set the price whatever I want, I get like $7, which is a lot higher than I thought.
Yeah,
it would be, especially if they're printing it, shipping it, doing all that. So that has been awesome, because somebody up in Manitoba can buy it. And for me to ship that would be like $14, but Amazon does it. It's there in 2 days, and I just get the royalty back. So if anyone has any interest in ever being an author, it's probably a lot easier than you think. Get your ideas down in a doc, have some people go through and edit it, but then check out Kindle Direct Publishing. It's pretty awesome.
Well, that is a very good tip, and I will be checking it out myself. Like I said, Dillon and I have been kicking it around for too long, so maybe that'll be the spur I need to kind of get that moving forward. So, not to get too deep in the Amazon weeds, but they don't keep any printed books on stock. They just print them all immediately as ordered, or?
That's a good question. So I don't even know like how they do it. And another nice thing too is I can buy author copies, is what they're called. So I bought like 500 of my author copies, and I only had to pay the printing cost, which is like $3 a book or something.
Oh, wow.
And so the way some of my coaches told it to me, it was like, Luke, this, like, the book, yes, the content inside is important, but what it is as well is it's a very expensive business card. And so instead of handing out a business card to somebody at a trade show, it's like, hey, here's my book. Here's a free book. It's got, my face on it. It's got all my info. I even put my personal cell number in the back of the book. And it's just like, people are less likely to throw away a book than they are a business card. And so that made a lot of sense to me. And so I bought, 500 books. It was like $3 a piece. And then anytime somebody orders it on Amazon, like I said, they take care of everything. I don't even know what happens. And then I just kind of check the monthly sales at the end of each month, and they just deposit it in our account. So I definitely did it more to be a resource for guys and gals that were just getting started and that were trying to grow their business. But it's really been fascinating to see like other potential authors come to me and ask like how the process was. And it's honestly like a lot easier than you'd think.
That is not what I expected to hear. So that's interesting.
Yeah, no lawyers, none of that. No wait time. I didn't have to wait to get approved by a publisher. It was done in 72 hours and available on Amazon.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Those are really good tips. We're kind of pushing up on time here, Luke, but there's a few more things I wanted to touch on. So
Yeah.
you're also sounds like a pretty charitable guy, and you've got a pretty lofty goal within the next 4 or 5 years to make a donation. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that goal is and how you're working up to that level?
Yeah, man. I appreciate you asking about it. Somebody asked me the other day what my 5-year goal was, and I said, well, it's technically my 3-year goal now because I set it 2 years ago. So uh basically my goal, and I tried to think about this quite a bit because I in a good way, money is become emotionless now. And so like I don't like whether we make a bunch or we lose a bunch, it just like I don't feel the emotions anymore. So I think that's a good spot to be. But what I didn't want to lose was the giving part. That's one of my favorite things to do, is always be looking to give. And so I tried to pair a goal together, like a revenue goal for the next 3 years, but I wanted to pair it with giving. So instead of saying I want to have our revenues be at $5 million in 3 years, I just reverse engineered it and said, how much could I give if our company is doing 5 million? And my goal then would be to write $100,000 check in 2026 to an organization. And I know it's going to happen. It's just what percentage is that going to be out of our business? But setting it that way gets me so much more excited to make it happen. And we have a scholarship we've been doing the last 3 years at my high school. It's tailored for somebody that is going into a 2-year trade school. And
It's
so
awesome.
they have to be going to a trade school, not a 4-year university. And my goal for that would be a full ride in the next 3 years. So we've been inching it up each year from when I started Phaser, when we had $800 in revenue. But it's amazing when you put that stuff out there, how many other people start supporting. So we try and crowd fund all of that, and people in the industry, they're always stepping up and they say, Luke, I know you're doing 2,500. I want to match it, things like that. And so it's really encouraging to me and to our team and to everyone else just to promote some of that instead of just our services. But yeah, man, 3 years, we're going to write that check and it's going to be awesome. And then, we're just going to have a great night and celebrate, and it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
That is awesome. That's a lofty goal. It's a really cool thing to be doing, right? If you give them back to the people that you serve originally and the people that help you do what you do, you don't have to answer this, but do you know who the charity is, the lucky recipient of that check when you get there?
I don't. I have a
Okay.
good idea of who it could be, but I probably shouldn't dig myself a hole.
Yeah,
And
yeah, no, of course. Of course.
but yeah, because I think the last 3 years we've had our Phaser fundraiser supporting the Boys and Girls Club, and that started right when I started the business as well. The first year we raised $6,100 for them. Last year we did a black tie gala and it was 20K, and then this year in August we raised 30K for them. So like
Wow.
ideally it would be them, because I have a big passion for you know the kids in the community, and then of course it goes up through the high school, going into the trades, things like that. But you never know. I mean, that I guess that could change.
Very, very cool. So just to stay on that real quick, what do you do for your big events? We're pretty big into fundraising. My wife and I run a nonprofit outside of construction, but I know how difficult fundraising events are. So I'm curious here. What is it that you're doing that's raising such large
Yeah,
sums of dollars?
we so the last 2 years, the first year we didn't get to do it, but the last 2 years we've done a black tie gala. So it's the same time every year. It's like the second week of August on a Thursday up in my hometown. Basically the idea is like it's the one night a year we all get to get dressed up, dust off the suit, come together, have drinks, have food, silent auction, live auction. We got live music, just a big party, really. But all the proceeds, all the money go right to the Boys and Girls Club. We do the check presentation at the end of the night. Man, this year, like we opened up sponsorships this year, and that's what really helped us get over that mark. We had this is crazy. We had 9 sponsors. 8 of them weren't in my hometown. So
Wow.
they're all over the country. Almost all of those were construction companies. A lot of them you know, like one of them, for an example, is a client of ours. He lives in Florida. He's never been to Detroit Lakes. He's not going to the event. We said, I love what you're doing. You're taking care of your people. I want to help. And they sponsored $2,000. Had another good friend of mine up in Canada. Of course, he couldn't make it, but he just said, I want to donate $1,200. And it's like stuff like that. Just seeing the industry rally together, it just like gets me so juiced because we can't write a $30,000 check, but we can certainly try to do as much as we can. And so we take a portion of that, and then we try and rally the troops and get as much as we can out of it.
That's very cool, man. And you're doing really good work. So kudos to you for even putting that out there, because a lot of people won't even try that stuff. So to be doing it and not only doing it but doing it successfully, that's awesome.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And the way I look at it is, if we raise $5, it's more than we had if we didn't give it a shot. So
that's right, brother. That's exactly right. Last thing, and I'll let you go, but the scholarship, I want to hear a little bit more about that too. So it's a scholarship strictly for trades-based programs at your high school, your alma mater?
Yep. Yes, sir. So
okay.
Basically how we have it set up, they use Dollars for Scholars, it's called. So all the students go through like a questionnaire system.
Okay.
But one of my requirements for the Phaser scholarship is they have to be going to a 2-year trade school. So young gentleman this year, he won it, and he's going to be an electrician. And talking with Luke Payne, co-host of the Dirtbags, instantly he's like, let's do something, because he went to the same high school as me, and he was a year younger. And he's like, let's do something with the Dirtbags and like do a bigger amount. I'm like, dude, done. And so I think this next year we're really going to amp it up, and I think we got to figure out how much like a full ride would cost. But it's just that next goal of like, okay, if we're shooting for 15K or however much school costs, 30K, I don't know. Let's do what we can to run our businesses successfully enough to have enough profit to make that, to have our businesses continue to run, but be able to give that.
That is so cool to hear, man. And it's kind of ironic. So we are actually in the infancy stages, but we're starting a nonprofit of our own at the construction company to do exactly what you're doing. We didn't want to tailor it to one specific school. So in order to meet the IRS's pesky requirements, we need to do the 501 or 5 whatever it is, C3 thing, nonprofit organization. But that's our intent too, is to offer up scholarships to kids coming out of high school looking to get into trade-based programs. And it's just cool to hear. There's a few guys that I follow and talk with a lot. Steve Turner up in New Hampshire runs Bring Back the Trades, and he's doing a phenomenal job with that. So to hear what you're doing with your scholarships and through Phaser and through your podcast, it's cool, man. We need more people doing this sort of thing, because we are single-handedly changing this industry and changing the world because of it. So just again, man, I really want to thank you for coming on, and what you're doing it goes far above marketing. Although the marketing, I'm sure, is great and real high level stuff. What you're doing intrinsically for the industry is awesome. So keep up the great work, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity and the platform to even talk about it. But the people are out there, they want to give. A lot of times you just need to give them the opportunity to be like, hey, here's a direct way that you can help kids today. And then it's like, just click this. And so, yeah, I love to see what you guys are doing. Obviously, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. It's a lot easier when we all do it together, and we can all help each other out. So
for sure, we'll keep in touch as we get forward here. Luke, I'll put all your information in the show notes, but just how do people get a hold of you if they want to follow you, want to check out Phaser Marketing or buy the book?
Yeah, easiest way to get a hold of me, jump on Instagram, Phaser Marketing, or Luke Egerbrotten. LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. It's the best. If you're not on it, get on LinkedIn, or shoot me a text. Cell number is 218-234-7345. Don't send me an email. I won't see it. And the book, you can find it on Amazon. Just type in The Digital Dirt World or type in my name. So feel free to shoot me a text. The door is always open, and go follow us on Instagram, and we'll shoot you a follow back.
Awesome, Luke. I really appreciate you coming on, man, and we'll push some traffic your way, and I'm sure we'll be talking here in the future.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Matt. Hope you have a great one.
Likewise, you too. And with that, guys, we're going to conclude this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. Please, as always, pay our fee, give us a like, give us a share. Check out our newly emerging YouTube channel where we are dropping interviews just like these on a weekly basis, and we will keep putting them out. So with that, we will see you guys all next time.